I forgot to change the stream title. Gamedec. Educational. And story. Narrative? Story. God, that's really not a tag. Story is not a tag on Twitch. Okay. Update information. Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. I'm going to finish pouring my beer. Heute Nacht, wir trinken Franziskaner. That was very close. Post. Go, baby. Prost. Nur Schweine trinken alleine, gell? Ich bin ein Schwein. German beer. Oh no, it's not Franziskaner, it's Paulaner. But I guess Franziskaner is Paulaner, go. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm going to say in stream chat, oh, is the server popping? Was the server popping? I don't think the server. The server is on a steady, even. It is always just chugging right along. It doesn't seem to pop, you know. But Rinzai is the absolute steward of Vandiyaha. Damn it, Toolings. Sorry you can't come. Okay. I think we'll wait for just like a couple more people to trickle in. But we can kind of go ahead and get going. Like get loading and stuff. Maybe I want to just check to make sure I'm loading the right thing. 10:13:37. Okay, I would like to load that. The most recent. I don't know if anybody's heard of Gamedec. It came out not too long ago, but it is just fascinating. It is such an interesting. It's kind of like playing Westworld in a way. It's like if you were a detective in Westworld. I don't know if anybody's seen that show. I haven't, not until now. Hello, Toaster Shooter. But the writing is really good, and I think this is something that we can talk about a little bit today, which is that the writing is has its tradition. I could probably just turn the music down a little bit. So the prose is fine. The prose is like, it's good enough. It's not like we're not hanging out with like Thomas Pynchon or Hemingway or anything, but it doesn't matter, because I think that the plotting of the game is so good that I am having way more fun playing this than I am reading Pynchon. So that's the thing to keep in mind, is that your prose does not necessarily need to be completely beautiful in order for your story to be good. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Second thing I wanted to say, I have not seen Westworld. No, I have. That was not what I wanted to say. Hello, Corvidash. Yeah, Westworld it's a pretty good show. It's like it's like I don't really know what happened in the later seasons because I stopped watching after the first one, but the basic premise of the show is there's this magical Disneyland type place, right? And in this magical Disneyland type place, there are these androids, and the setting of this, it's kind of like a theme park. There's this theme park that is set in the Old West, and the people can go and visit, and they're given costumes and stuff. And everybody around them is basically just a really highly intelligent animatronic that helps them live out their fantasies, right? So you go there and you shoot people, and you rob a bank in the Old West, hee yeehaw. And that's kind of the story of Westworld, right? And then the premise of Westworld is, what if there was a place like this, but then all of the machines, the pleasure robots, suddenly woke up, right? And it's cool in that way. It's kind of it's a cool idea. I think that this game takes a similar idea, although I think it turns it into detective fiction, which is always good in my opinion. And the second thing it does is it takes the cyber meter and goes, it just cranks that shit. It cranks the cyber meter. Cause despite what this looks like, this is a cyberpunk game. So the premise of the game, Gamedec, is you play as a game deck, and a game deck is a person who, in this future, I think it takes place in like the 22nd century, or something. Who cares? And so, in this futuristic world, all of the virtual reality games, like full body experiences, virtual reality games have become so common and so normal that basically everybody does them, and it has warped society entirely. To the point where like they need to have a profession called a game deck, and game decks are they take many forms, right? So if we were to look into the professions, you can be a more medical style game deck. So people who are suffering from some type of medical problem, and that's why they can't get out of their game, or you can identify certain problems, right? Medical problems. The infotainer is somebody who kind of understands the internet culture to the point where you can kind of take advantage of that, right? Like maybe you're a celebrity in that world, right? A sensory celebrity. The current visible environment gives me 1960s family sitcom vibes, and that's super interesting for cyberpunk. It's actually Old West. You'll see it as we walk around, but this particular game is in the Old West. Which is, I guess, maybe why I thought of Westworld. But so I went for just kind of the classic hacker. So like a Glacier, I'm well versed in both virtual and real technology, right? I just know a lot about them. I'm a programmer, so I can hack into. So, okay, let's back up a little bit. So the premise of the game is that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of virtual reality games, right, that people go into, and they live their lives there. Now people live outside of these games as well, but a lot of people live their lives inside these games, and they have problems. They call the game deck. The game deck comes in and tries to help them. for whatever reason, right? So my first case was there was this high profile, like, I don't know who he was, banker guy, some type of influential politician, something, and his son was trapped inside the game deck in like a porn game, and they couldn't get him out, and they didn't know why, and so they called me, and then I went into the porn game and tried to find him. Right, I tried to find him in the virtual world by conducting an investigation and figuring out where he is. Right, so it's full on detective fiction where I'm the one who's making the deductions, and but it's taking place in a virtual world. Does that make sense? All of them take place in a virtual world. So with this one, for example, the one I'm currently in, I was contacted by this group of free-to-play gamers. So this game in particular is it's a free-to-play like farming game, almost like Farmville but virtual reality. And I was contacted by these guys who were in these orange shirts. That makes sense? Okay, good. So I was contacted by these guys in these orange shirts because they keep falling asleep and getting disconnected from the game, and they're not sure why it's happening. And they're desperate to be able to stay in the Farmville game, right? And so I'm thinking, oh, well, that's weird. Like, I'm helping addicts stay in their game. That seems, like not particularly something I want to do. However, as I've gone on with the investigation, I found out, or at least I've made the deduction. I don't know if it's necessarily true, but if we go to my deductions, what is the problem with the clients, right? So let's run down to these guys real quick. So these are virtual people who are farming these virtual pumpkins. Now, when they farm virtual pumpkins, they have a chance to get a loot box, and the loot box contains items that they can then sell for real currency, right? That is a creative premise that teems with possibility. It certainly is, and I'm fascinated by it. So let's go back to the deduction. So they're farming for loot boxes, essentially, in this virtual world. So when I zoom in on this, I have deduced, and I could be wrong about this, but I have deduced that they are not necessarily addicted to the game. They may abuse pharmacological substances. And I do think that someone else is pulling the strings, but they're being forced to collect them. And the reason why I've deduced this is from the evidence that I found that I think that, so for example, this guy right here, who's patrolling the farm, his name is Ack Thompson. He's kind of shady, and he is watching them at all times. And then I talked to somebody else that said that this is like a weird, like freemium guild, that they mine these loot boxes and they live on like the very bottom of the city, and they're part of like it's almost like slave trade in a weird cyberpunky, type sense. And they're being forced to go in here to collect these loot boxes so that they can sell stuff for the slave traders, essentially. It's fucked up. It's super dark. That's the thing that I've actually really enjoyed about this game so far, is that it is not afraid to go there. This game is often dark and loves and relishes in it. But it's quite funny too. But anyway, so the thing that I needed to do is I needed to talk to this woman, because right now there's some weird tension between the in-game sheriff, who's played by a real guy, It's kind of hard to talk about fiction when it's fiction within fiction. Let's see, Leanne, I needed to talk to her. Okay, so there's also just a nice clip to the writing. I like that the choices are verbs rather than it saying what you're going to say. I like that it says report, right? Because reporting is a verb. I report to you, right? I report this information to you. That's a verb. And so that's something that I really like. And even in these weird ones, right? I can't select this because I don't have sensory celebrity. But even in this one, it says have her say something. right? It doesn't. It could have been phrased differently, and I think it would have been worse for that. I actually really like that it's written in this verbic language. It makes me feel like I'm doing things. Report what you've discovered about the sheriff. About the sheriff. Lie. He's an outranger. Lie is a doctor. Say that you're still gathering information. Oh, I thought I had the information. Okay. Well, I thought I had the information that I needed to tell her, but so I need to collect more information. And the thing that's really interesting is stepping into these games is kind of like this strange little microcosm, right? Like they change your UI for every game that you're in. And they all have different meanings, and I'm not entirely sure what they all are yet, but you can definitely, like the first case I did with the man and his like porn addicted son, I fucked that case up completely. Completely. Like the son died, everything went wrong, and there was not much that I could do about it. Because I'm not very good at being a detective yet. Okay, so I have to meet the sheriff at sundown. I have to give the outlaw. The outlaw is another character in here. It's a kind of a side plot. I'm not entirely sure how much it really plays into it. Examine the digital anomaly. Where was that? But it's interesting because when you step into these games, they each have their own culture, kind of like when you step into a game, right? Like when you first start playing Dark Souls, and then you're like, well, how the hell do I beat that boss? And then you go to the Reddit, and then you kind of, through osmosis, learn about the culture of Dark Souls, like the culture of the players. It's similar in this, except for it's, authored. Busted ATM. The banker turned out to be a hacked bot. His name had been altered, and he had a dumb look on his face, and it was crawling with flies. He wasn't paying any attention to me. Check the bot. The bot had been hacked well. Any attempt to access its code would require a lot of work and would unlikely go unnoticed. Oh, I wanted to unlock that, but I panicked during an interview with somebody, because you can unlock skills mid-conversation in order to unlock conversation options. And the game does a really good job of ramping tension during dialogue. And hopefully we'll see some of that as we play. I think I'm just going to leave that for now. Right after sunset, before the first coyote howls. How do I pass time? Farmer. Oh, I could talk to him before. I guess I can now. Oh, who are you? Happy Joe. Never mind. I'm gonna go talk to this. This is the outlaw up here. I talked to her earlier. Oh, I guess I can't talk to her anymore. Oh, yeah, I can. Oh, okay. Actually, I'll just hang out here for a second. So this was the conversation that I actually decided to purchase a skill point. Not in the tree that I was hoping for, because I was so worried about losing this potential lead in the case that I had to upgrade another skill. So I'll show you that. So I took the scalpel skill because I needed that in order to calm her down. And the reason why I needed that to calm her down was because this meter represents a path that you can go down in order to obtain information, right? So obviously when you hover over this, it's intimidation and breaking. And I started the conversation like right here, and I was hoping that, I mean, I made a choice in the dialogue tree that actually like forced it to go this way, right? And I was like, okay, I've got her trusting me. I should just lean into that, because you run out of dialogue. Like, you only have so many dialogue choices before the conversation ends. So you have to be pretty careful, because you're not always sure which ones are going to set them off, or I mean, it could be evident, I think, if you're really paying attention. But being so new to the game, I still wasn't quite sure, and I was worried that I was going to set her off. But I knew that if I picked the scalpel option, I was going to be able to. It was primarily concerned about her health, and I knew that that would be something that she would take well to, right? And so in the moment, I was like, shit, I just got to upgrade to this profession, and that's unfortunate because I really, really, really want to get to cheater, because cheater allows me to manipulate the virtual worlds that I'm in. So I can find alternate routes and paths and stuff that I otherwise might not be able to find. It's just genius. It's just so cool. Like I love that the game is this way. I kind of don't know how else to say it. I guess I could go back to my farm. I had to sign up for a farm in order to come into the game. And the game is definitely making some, kind of social commentaries, some kind of it's taking jabs, right? So like this is the game. Oh, I got a loot box, and I can plant, and I can watch the meter grow, and then I can click, and then I get a coin. Right. So it's clearly making fun of like free mobile games, the free to play, freemium type games. Develop your farm. Yes, buy it. Oh, you have a strawberry field. How cute. I love the smell of strawberries in the morning. You leveled up. Yeehaw. That's fantastic. Did you know that strawberries are a hybrid of two wild species? Yeehaw. Here's your next task. Sow and reap these fruits. Yummy. Hey, 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 rancher. Get to work. I keep hoping that this will actually lead to something, but I think it's actually just like a red herring. God, this is just enraging. Oh, I can't click. What the hell? Alright, well... It's so mundane. Can I like hack her or something? Give me a moo and buy a pasture for 250 gold coins. You leveled up, yeehaw. That's fantastic. Ahoy! The sun is shining, so let's stop slacking. Time to roll up your sleeves and get cracking. Okay, so I'm not going to do that. I think this is a waste of my time. So instead I'm going to leave the farm. So just so you know, Squish Butt Dave, this game is not set in the Old West. It is set in a cyberpunk future. It's just that this is a virtual reality game that I am conducting an investigation inside. Well, maybe I can actually get there through deduction. Suspects. Okay. So I have 3 suspects. I don't know why Leanne is the suspect, but let's look at the sheriff. Delightful, indeed. The sheriff is quick. The current sheriff hasn't been beaten, although many have tried. The popular opinion is that he's damn quick. The sheriff's reputation seems to be impeccable. Ack, the Orange Folk Supervisor, and Mad Dog are the sheriff's most trusted men, though the latter rarely logs into the game. I suspect that the sheriff is the real victim here. He's acting like a child lost in the dark. He's popular. I don't think that though, because the sheriff works with. Um, so okay, so right now we have the central case is these people in orange are passing out and they're being kicked out of the game. I think they're actually drug addicts who are forced to collect loot boxes as part of like a slave trade type thing, cyberpunk-y slave trade thing. Um, I thought that the sheriff was an okay guy, but he's friends with this one cowboy feller, this guy, who's been walking around and he supervises the people in orange. They're afraid of him, so I think that he is kind of like their, you know, pimp, for lack of a better word. Good call. The law has to be respected. I understand that you're chasing an outlaw and you'd like to question my people. That's problematic. You take too much of their time. From what I heard, the outlaw is anxious to leave High Rock. You should take your detective skills to a different part of town. Well, good luck and good day to you. See, this dude just won't talk to me, and he's like weird. But I think I'm going to talk to his people anyway. Although many of them might not talk to me anymore. Do you still have that ticket you dug out in front of me? I'd like to buy it from you. Oh, listen, I know that you came here to help us, but I can't sell you this ticket. I'll just give it to you there. Okay, that's great. That's good news. I forgot that he had the Midnight Express ticket. It's a thing in the game. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I know that the outlaw wanted it. So I think I'm going to head up and talk to her and see what she can do to help me. She's called the outlaw by the sheriff, but I don't trust the sheriff. He's a weird dude. He's a strange guy. So instead, I'm going to talk to her. Give the ticket. Here, I have the Midnight Express ticket. It's yours. Gosh, you weren't lying. I mean, you did. I'm so glad. Thank you. Offer to escort her to the station. Alright, let's meet here at sundown. I don't know exactly how and when time passes, but we'll see. Because I doubt it passes in real time. And it doesn't seem like there's even a game time. It's not like a disco. Like, you know, where time passes on dialogue choice. They looked unclaimed, but this game had no stray animals. Their tails swung in the same place. At the same pace? Was that a glitch? If it wasn't in a game, I'd say that someone gave these animals a scare, but who? I felt this strange presence that had haunted me before. I knew I had to investigate it. This is something that has kept coming and coming, this presence that like walks behind me as I observe things and talk to people, but I haven't been able to find a way that I can do it. Oh, really? I can do it? There were two tools I could use. Intermirror could pierce through the cloak, while Pain Ping launched a painful jamming impulse. I'm going to do the Intermirror. I opened my deck, launched Intermirror, and turned it toward this supposed presence. Hey, Rinzai, how's it going? Did you think that the Discord was popping without you? Because I said this earlier, but I always think that the Discord is on this like steady, even, this ship pace. Mostly kept afloat by the Rinzai tossing the coals into the furnace. I recognize a human silhouette without a material avatar. The structure of cloaking code seemed familiar, but I couldn't say why. You're sweet? Oh, thank you. You're sweet. Okay. I would say you do a good job. I appreciate it. If I could pay you, I would. But I have no money. So the what was I going to say? So to catch Rinzai up on this real quick. So right now this is this is not a Western game. Oh, I'm glad. That means a lot to you. I'm not in a Western game. I'm in a Western game within a game. So I am in a cyberpunk game who has gone into a Western virtual reality game inside this. Does that make sense? Gamedec, the game I'm playing, is Cyberpunk. This is called Harvest Time. I'm doing an investigation in here. I recognize the human silhouette without a material avatar. The structure of the cloaking code seemed familiar, but I couldn't understand why. Why are those cows mooing so much? Oh yeah, they have been moving quite a lot, haven't they? After a while, the shape disappeared. I knew that if I caught this ghost, I'd be able to examine it more closely, maybe even talk to it. Yeah, I would love to. I don't want to talk to that guy again. Whoa. I felt a sudden strong gust of wind. There was an occasional mild breeze in this game, but nothing like this. I was either hallucinating or I had just been seen falling dust arrange itself into the outline of a human being. Just as I expected, my invisible stalker reappeared. I had 2 more apps I could use to examine this activity, but both were illegal. Well, we're definitely doing the illegal stuff. I could trace the player by performing either a safety scan or by putting on Gamedec goggles. The scan was more reliable, but I risked drawing admin attention. The goggles were safer, but their range was limited. There is actually an issue doing things. That's one of the things I've really liked about this game, is there are real stakes to the choices you make. I love that shit. And it was capitalized beautifully in the first case. Because the first case, when I was investigating this high-profile politician, banker, something or other, his son was trapped in a porn game. And I thought, oh, it's a tutorial mission, no big deal. I go in, I learn some stuff. I kind of get an idea of how to, like, you know, how to do a whole investigation. And I failed, and the kid died. And I totally could not have, I mean, I absolutely could have not failed that. But I made just terrible choices. I was a terrible detective, and I put a lot of people's lives at risk, and I hurt a lot of people, and it went bad. And after that, I've been genuinely scared, which is a feeling I haven't really had since Disco, and then before that, since like original, like OG Fallout. That's why we play games, to hurt people and learn new fears, right? Totally. But it's just weird. Like, I love that I can feel that about fictional characters, right? I love that I can feel nervous about the choices that I'm going to make, because it's not always the case. Very rarely, I believe, is it the case. But let's continue. So, I mean, this game is hacked to shit. That's kind of what I've been gathering as I've been walking around. So it might not matter, but I think safe is safe. Catching the ghost. Use the programs indicating the ghost's location to catch it and force it to duel. It also likely serves as a powerful lesson to be careful with the choices you're making. Absolutely, yeah, right. Like, I think that they kind of know, right? They know that you're a fish out of water. And, I mean, maybe no matter what, something negative happens. Because it would make sense for the grand arcing narrative, right? Because this game isn't like... I mean, it's an adventure game. I would definitely not call this like a CRPG. I don't even know if I would really call it an RPG. It feels very much like it's a detective fiction game. It feels like there are levels. But, I mean, it's very early days, so... it was time for this little birdie to show itself. Okay. The scanner displayed the last location of my target. I had to get there before they were gone. I was determined to catch the ghost, so I hurried in the direction suggested by the app. There was a direction suggested by the app? Oh. I had the enemy in the bag. I had just had to restrain them. The freeze app I had on my deck was the best tool for the task. Restrain the enemy. I opened a window and chose freeze, but my attack was ineffective. The enemy had some sort of security program. There was something familiar about the software. It took me a moment, but I finally recognized it. They were Gamedec apps. I'm a Gamedec, right? Gamedec is the name of a game detective. I was up for a duel. My enemy didn't wait for an invitation and quickly launched the first attack. To gain advantage in a duel, choose attacks your opponent has not seen before and defenses that fit your opponent's attacks. So it's like rock, paper, scissors. The enemy attacked with web. It was a massive thing, one I wasn't prepared for. It hit me with the full power and gave my opponent the lead. Enter the fight. It seemed my enemy had access to a standard collection of apps, but so did I. I opened a window with offensive and defensive programs. Apps had different speeds and methods of operation. Successful attacks gave you an advantage, while good defense helped you keep it. Right? Okay, so the gameplay is not particularly riveting. You know what I mean? It's selecting dialogue choices. That's basically all it is. But the plot around it elevates the gameplay, which I think is fascinating. So interesting to me. It's just stakes and tension, and suddenly dialogue is an interesting click. Fantastic. VN writers assemble. I'm gonna attack. Has not seen yet. Monster. I'd always imagined this attack like a pack of little aggressive monsters. In reality, it spammed the target with annoying notifications. The enemy reacted with pirouette. Too slow. I gained the advantage. Give me a VN plus walking sim with an amazing story any day. Absolutely. If only we could do that. I also think that there should be more short fiction. Not so many visual novels, but why not a visual collection of short stories, right? Like Hemingway or Fitzgerald. I'm wondering why that's not more common. Because when you're in the academy, when you're in the MFA, they say that you should write short stories before you write novels. Your master's thesis should be a collection of short stories. That's what most schools say. Because when you can write 13 very good short stories, you can write a very good novel, right? Serialized VSS, yeah. Visual short stories are awesome. I think it would be super cool. I mean, I think that's kind of what that outfit in Argentina are doing. I forget their name. I'll have to look it up later. But okay, I was sure my opponent had already chosen an application. The enemy hit me with bow, focused and swift. Interesting. Let's use programmer. Yeah, they're really cool. I'll find the name and I'll send it to you. They're really cool. I think they're called they're calling themselves Pixel Pulp or something like that. They make Pixel Pulp games, and they're very cool. Their art style is just gorgeous. You could probably find them by doing Pixel Pulp Argentina. Programmer. I wondered if my enemy knew that one, the so-called query redirection. Simple once you get the hang of it. So because I'm a programmer, I was able to do something else in a fight, right? Noted? Good. My enemy... Oh, wait, no, you already said noted. What the fuck? My enemy became the target of their own attack. That must have surprised them, but I knew they would be more careful next time. Okay, let's attack. Failure, firewall. Okay. Let's do sword. Those who lived by the sword, from what I remembered, this app injected server queries into the opponent's code. It was basically a virus. The enemy responded with helmet. Wrong method, but faster. I gained the advantage. My opponent was preparing another attack. The enemy hit me with bow. Focused and swift. I used repulsion. It's a quick type of defense that deflects enemy packets. It was the perfect defense. Okay, I get it now. Okay, I wasn't affected at all. Attack. Shurikens. I attacked the enemy with shurikens. It was basically several not so sophisticated attacks that had a chance to blind the enemy. Oh, that went very well. I'll look it up. There is the Sock Pop team who do small games every month, I believe. Not really narratively focused, but still. That's cool. About the DreadX collections. They used repulsion, though the move was fast. The speed and method weren't correct. That wasn't how you defended against shurikens. Man, this guy sucks. He's a terrible game deck. I'm like really good. I sensed my enemy grinning in anticipation for the next attack. The enemy attacked using Godzilla. What would Godzilla be? It would have to be focused and something. Gate? My defense proved too slow. The enemy's attack was effective. Too slow. Let's try bow. We haven't done bow yet. Yeah, he's gonna hit me with pirated film, and then he's gonna steal my Facebook password. I showered the enemy with a hail of arrows. They responded with repulsion. The perfect answer. Shit. Prepared for the next attack. My opponent used monster. Dispersed and swift. I used helmet. It was a perfect defense. I wasn't attacked at all. Attack. Let's do halberd. I used halberd. The strong signal overrode enemy commands and made them ineffective. They tried to defend with smokescreen. It had decent velocity, but was the wrong method. I gained the advantage. I just want to know who this guy is. You can't gate off Godzilla. That's true. I just it was the only thing that made sense. It was I can't defend him with a helmet. I was sure my opponent had already chosen an application. The enemy used saber. Pirouette. Attack. What haven't we done? I'm running out. Web. Yes. Victory. The enemy used shield. It was faster than web, but the method was incorrect. They got hit. My best guess was that Godzilla was supposed to reference those old Appzilla applications. Maybe. I disarmed my enemy, which allowed me to restrain them and check their identity. A female voice spoke to me. Alright, you really kicked my ass there. Let's talk. Ask who she is. Who are you? Thank God that sound is gone. Relax, I'm a friend. I like your profession, and I'm intrigued by your investigation. That's why I've been observing you at work. I don't want to say more right now. Not here. Show understanding. I also named my character Boot because that's the name of my main character in my novel. And I also chose a black girl because that's what my main character chooses to be inside of virtual reality. Unfortunately, your character looks exactly the same in the virtual realities as they do in the real world, which is kind of not what I was hoping for. I was hoping I was going to be able to make Boot how Boot looks, but I wasn't allowed to do that. So that was a little unfortunate. I thought it would have been really cool to be able to design two avatars, one for the world, the real world, and then one for the game worlds. And you still haven't answered my question. I'm a friend, and I'll prove that to you. As for all the spying, I hope I can make it up to you somehow. Ask what she wants. What do you want? All I want is a friendly check. One game deck to another. Sorry for all the sneaking around. Will you accept? I agree. Fine, we're cool. Really? Great. Gotta say I didn't expect that. As a thank you, allow me to... Maybe I'll share some information with you. Might help with your investigation. Yes, please do. That's why I'm agreeing and being nice. But I don't mean to force my solution on you too early. After all, I could be wrong, right? Finish your investigation. Let's meet to discuss our findings, preferably somewhere private, for example. Well, the graveyard turned out to actually not be private. I thought it was, but let's go in the saloon. Good place for a chat, but a bit too crowded. Let's meet in the graveyard. Okay, fine. Do you remember the way? You need to jump into the well or off the saloon roof. Both methods are fine. The well? You can jump into the well? I didn't know that. You'll see soon. Don't worry. I've been in harvest time for a long time, a half an hour. I'll see you there. The mysterious game deck vanished into thin air. A moment later, I received a text file and a private message. I scanned and opened it. The message said, "You really kicked my ass there, friend. Please accept the enclosed files with my compliments. They were dug out of the depths of the net. You might find them useful." Posing as Mr. Lebsky, the sheriff became the manager of a Nanette's Gardens charity activation program for poor kids. In harvest time, it also appears that the head of Nanette Foundation is a player named Leanne. The message ended with a note. I'd love to speak with you about this case. Remember the graveyard. I'll wait for you there. That's got my head spinning. The sheriff works as a manager for the Nanette Foundation under the pseudonym Mr. Lebsky. I don't know what the Nanette Foundation is. I'm not choosing that yet. She returned to the game after a prolonged absence. The sheriff is in the crosshairs. Leanne is collecting intel on the sheriff. In Realium, Leanne is the head of the Nanette Foundation. Okay. Interesting. So, you guys probably don't know who Leanne is, but Leanne is Realium is reality. So the virtual worlds are called Virtualium, and Realium is the real world. Yeah. And they're often used side by side as though they are equal, which I think is kind of interesting. I also think it's interesting that they chose alium, like as the suffix of both, because they both sound like words or like drugs, kind of. Yeah, right. Virtualium versus realium. Yeah, it's a strange distinction. It's Latin, isn't it? Probably. Very, very likely. Yeah, where's Caton? Get Caton in here right now. Caton, what does alien mean? Exactly. Ask your doctor today if realium is right for you. I think it would be interesting if it were to kind of reference drugs in some capacity, because then they're saying, like, society itself refers to the real world as a drug and the fake world as a drug, right? I think that's kind of interesting. I guess my mind can't handle realium. Right? It does. It does sound like one. My mind can't handle realium either, though. That's why I play Gamedec. Leanne. I don't want to extort coins. He works for a foundation. He works for the Nanette Foundation under the pseudonym Mr. Lebsky. He runs Nanette's Gardens, an activation program for poor kids. The woman's eyes and mouth went wide. For a good while, she seemed to have trouble catching her breath. But how? I'm Nanette. I'm the head of the foundation. I had no idea that Mr. Lebsky was the sheriff. He never said a word. Finally, I can talk to this woman. I've been trying to talk to her forever, but all she wants to talk about is the sheriff. Tell me everything you know about Mr. Lebsky. I've never seen him in person. We met in the game. He offered to help me with Nanette's Gardens, and we struck a deal through Viper. I don't know what that means either. The program was a burden on our budget, but Mr. Lebsky came up with the idea to auction items from loot boxes that spawn when you grow pumpkins. There we go. There we go. So wait, what does that mean? I actually can't say a bad word about him. He made the garden self-sufficient. The kids from the program have decent equipment, supplements, supervisors, although I have to say that I'm not sure about anything more anymore. Thank you for your help. Do you have any other questions? If not, going back to the foundation. What do you know about the Orange Folk, the people I'm here for? Nothing except the fact that they work on public farms and everyone thinks they're weirdos. But how... You just said it yourself, Leanne. Oh, now I understand. If Mr. Lebsky is the sheriff, then these people might be kids from Nanette's Gardens. Oh my god, I know. Thank you for your help. Do you have any other... That's all you have to say about that? What do you do in the game? Nothing wrong. I'm looking for a sponsor that could support my foundation. I need money. You see, I'm running a children's cancer hospital. So there are kids with cancer... I thought they were addicted to drugs. They're kids with cancer who are being forced to mine for loot boxes in a virtual reality so that they can pay for the foundation. It's fucking dark. It's heavy shit. See, this is what I'm talking about. She's raising money to treat cancer through... But she didn't know. That's the thing. Her foundation was faltering, so she hired Mr. Lebsky, who came up with an idea to have the farming through morally ambiguous lord. You know what I mean? It's fucked. Right? It's so cool. It's, yeah, I don't think it's morally, oh, well, I don't know. We don't know yet. I mean, maybe it is morally ambiguous. Maybe it's not all bad. I honestly, like, after the after how the first case went, I I don't know if if um if it is good or not. I'm really. And it uses pieces of something that actually happened IRL, where people legit grind for items in games to get desperately needed income. Well, from what we know, it sounds. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the thing that I think got me so excited about this game, is the plotting is really good, and the game is laid out as such that when you make these deductions, it's so much more impactful than if it had said something like, "Go confront the sheriff about being a cancer kid slumlord." You know what I mean? It's just, if the game figures it out for you, it's not good. So this is something we can actually talk about in classical narrative too. Okay. It's kids with cancer farming loot boxes to fund the cancer center that's trying to save their lives. That seems bad. That seems very bad. Very, very bad. I agree. It's something that's been on my mind. So, good detective fiction. Pinckney said a long time ago that a good detective story, Squishy Puff Dave knows this, a good detective story is one in which the mysteries that the detective is solving are really internal. They're ultimately trying to solve the mystery of whatever their problem is, right? It is very bad. I think it's very bad. Don't worry, Toaster. I do think it, I mean, through our moral calculus, I think that this is incredibly bad. But what I'm saying is that I may have made an incorrect deduction. It's possible, because the game shapes the narrative based on the deductions you make. Does that make sense? So, because I said, just so you know, Mr. Lebsky is a bad guy, she could have said, "Oh my God, Mr. Lebsky is a bad guy." And then we all go, "Oh my God, Mr. Lebsky is a bad guy," right? So, it could be because all of these people are in the dark too, and I'm just kind of stabbing in the dark based on like information that I'm gathering. So it could be possible that I am mistaken somewhere, that I made a crucial error, and I have completely pinned the wrong person, right? I don't know yet. We're gonna find that out. But the thing that I wanted to say about detective fiction is that, and this kind of goes for fiction in general, but a good detective story is one in which the detective is ultimately trying to solve the case about themselves. Which is usually why, I mean, like, think of Moriarty. Moriarty is like the actual polar opposite to Sherlock Holmes, right? Moriarty is unsolvable. Just like Sherlock Holmes is unsolvable. His issue is unsolvable. Which is why they're perfect for each other. They can never beat each other, right? From a narrative standpoint, they can't ever beat each other. Which is great for that narrative, because it means that it gets to keep going and going and going and going and going. But in other detective fiction narratives, right, think of Batman. Batman and the Joker. The Joker is philosophically opposite to Batman, right? But Batman overcomes this by understanding that he needs to relinquish himself as Batman in order to defeat the Joker. Right? So that's ultimately the detective solving the case about himself. It's a weird roundabout way of doing it, but it's the way you're doing it. So how does this fit within games? I'm not entirely sure, but what I do think is very interesting is that, and I think this was a really good move on Gamedec's part, is that they forced, from what I can tell so far, they forced all of their cases to be centered on morality. It's not simply who killed the guy. You know what I mean? Who's the serial killer? It's these weird moral issues, these weird things that are asking you to ask yourself how you feel about it. Now, why is it doing that? Because your character doesn't have much of a personality. Your character isn't much of a character. They don't really do. This is why I say it's not really an RPG. The RPG is just simply ways in which you want to interact with the world, right? Like cheating or medical stuff, or So, and it's very simple. I mean, look at this tree. It's fucking tiny comparatively to like a CRPG. Excuse me. And so in my mind, this isn't really an RPG. It's more like detective game, where this is exactly what I've been ranting to gamers about forever. It's not how hot to poison, but when is poison permissible, right? Well, and I think that works very, very, very good for this particular game. Oh yeah, how to poison. No, you're fine. Yeah, no, that makes it make way more sense. Yeah, not hot. Yeah, but I think that it works really well for this game because, and this is something that the Souls games do. This is something that I think, and we'll talk about this when we actually finally get to Bloodborne. But how hot to poison is that Bloodborne? The main character is not much of an authored character. They're nothing like Nathan Drake or many other RPG type games, right? Or I mean, well, Nathan Drake isn't an RPG type game, but like but in many other games that have some form of narrative, there's somewhat of a character, right? There's somewhat of a, Ellie Joel, perfect example. There are characters that you watch and you pay attention to, and you watch them change like you would if you're reading a book or watching a film or a television series or whatever. But in a game, you have an added option. You have the second person. You have you, right? There are a lot of games where you don't really play as an author. Yeah, totally. There's tons and tons and tons of games where you don't do that. But I think a lot of games fail to give you a sense of a narrative arc because they don't ask anything of you, right? So the games ultimately end up becoming about weird shit like the bad guy. Like games where there's no, like, or Destiny 1 and 2, your character has no personality. And so the game is really just kind of about like these people who kind of, work for the science war. You know what I mean? Like, and these people who are these bad guys, there's not much of a story. It's super weak. But I think that the reason why is because it doesn't lean into it doesn't understand that the you is the player. They don't understand that the character is the player. And so in order to make the character the player, they need to ask something of the player, not of the player character, of the player. I honestly don't like an author or non-authored characters a lot of the time because there's so little narrative hook as a result. Totally. I mean, it was kind of the same thing with, some games get around it like The Witcher, right? Where like you get around it by you get to pick your particular flavor of Geralt, or like Outer Worlds. But it was always like, I felt like I was playing some snarky dude in space. You know what I mean? And I think that's due to plotting, but I always want to just play as one of the more written side characters. Yeah, totally. I think it's amazing to make authored characters whose arcs depend on player choices. I think so too. I mean, I think that like Geralt is a good example of that from The Witcher. But Geralt also asks very interesting questions of the player. They ask the player to make a moral calculus, right? To judge something morally. And I think that that's brilliant. Because how else are you going to establish change in the character in the game when the character is the player? You have to ask the player to do it. You have to ask the player to make the moral calculus, right? Or you do what From Software did, which is you make the game so brutally difficult that they simulate overcoming adversity, which is what most games don't do. That's why I think From Software is so brilliant, because they actually simulate overcoming adversity, which is a hero's journey. They simulate the hero's journey. That's what they do. And they do it with no authored text on the part of the protagonist, right? They do it completely through the ludic text, completely through gameplay. It also uses the game to better the player as a person. Totally. Absolutely. But yeah, so that's kind of the end of my rant there. But all of this is to say that I think if you're not going to do this through combat, if you're not going to do this through, like, if you're going to do it through dialogue, how are you going to do it? And to me, it seems like one incredibly good option is to force the player to make moral calculi, right? This is something that I think actually worked really well in Rinzai's original game that he submitted to, I don't even know how many Neophyte jams ago it was, but the one about the prison and the warden and the wife and the husband and the stabbing and the, you know, and who was at fault for what, right? I thought that was a really interesting bite-sized way. That was months ago. Yeah. It was a really interesting bite-sized way to ask the player to make, to make a moral calculus. But I wanted to read, and I think that more people should do that, but I wanted to read what Toaster said. Another game I think does a decent job at this. Oh, damn. Here I go again. It's Katana Zero. Yes. That game, I will play it. I promise. That game has some particularly interesting moments where you just have to contemplate what's happening yourself. And I think that's actually a really interesting thing in that game too, because you have time dialogue options, right? Which I really like in general. I like a finality. I like consequence to dialogue. I think that that's another problem, is that you can sit there with dialogue for 25 minutes and go, which one am I going to do? And I think that that's a huge mistake. I think that players should have to, in the same way that they need to react to a monster approaching them in a From Software game, that is how fast they should have to think about a dialogue choice. Maybe not exactly that fast, but pretty damn close. That one was really interesting. Which one? Katana Zero? The game's ending absolutely fucked me up the first time I got to it because of what was really happening. Although I'm not sure what I'm talking about is what you're talking about. I think we're talking about roughly the same thing. I know you love Katana Zero. It's okay. I will play it. I promise. Soon. But right now, I think I need to go back to... Oh, wait. I can get there through the well. But I don't know where the well is. This game also doesn't have a map, which is... The moral calculi, I'm assuming you're referring to the phone game, right? The game with the phone in it, not the phone game. Okay, I am not going to... Oh, there's the well. Well, why can't I want to jump into the well. Well, that's annoying. Wait, who are you? Millie Mo. The cowgirl was tending to a horse and paid no attention to me. Pretzel, my precious. Want some more hay? Morning, can I ask? Can't you see I'm talking to Pretzel? Okay, she doesn't want to talk to me. Oh, my comment was on Rinzai's prison game. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, it was a good game. I really liked that. I thought it was a good way to do it in a very short way, too. In a short game. Oh, I forgot. The last thing I was going to say about good mystery fiction or good detective fiction is that you want to kind of stagger the information. So there's kind of an old saying that Pinckney repeated a lot while we were in the MFA, but effectively you never want the audience to answer the question at the exact same time as the protagonist. Right? You either want them to answer the question just after or just before, right? Just before makes the audience feel smart. Just after makes them feel respect. But you never want to do it too much in either direction, right? You don't want them to answer the question after the fact all the time, because then the mystery starts to become something like a puzzle that they can't solve, right? It's kind of the Sherlock effect where it's like you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then Sherlock's like, logic mind, and then he goes, logic mind harder, and then he knows exactly because he's Sherlock, and it's not really a mystery. He's just kind of like, it's like a superpower. So you don't want to do it too much in either direction, but you do want to have a little bit of both of them. And you definitely want to make the audience feel smart, because if they get to read through something and they get to a part and they're like, wait a second, I know what's going on. There's the real murderer was Zebra, or, and they go, yeah, I knew it. And then they're right. And they're like, fuck yes. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the modern ones. That's why I did this, because I think he literally does this in the first episode where he's like, logic. It's so stupid. Did I say B? I mean, I don't think that it's a bad show, just to be clear, but I really hate when Sherlock goes, logic. I hate it. I hate it so much. It like ruins the show for me. I mean, he might as well just start breathing fire at that point. Yeah, I guess so. I guess he does get migraines. I thought I could jump off this thing, but I guess I can't. Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, he did breathe fire. Taking notes right now. Be right back. Okay, sounds good. Can I level anything up? I didn't think so. All right, so let's actually play this game. You know what I mean? Oh my god. I was wondering what that was. There was a stream playing in the background. No wonder I could hear talking. I thought it was in the game. Sherlock Holmes discombobulates Jack the Ripper with fire. Wake up, buddy. Proceed to questions. Never mind. Ask about the weather. Lovely weather. Oh, yes, it is. But that's changing seasons, rainstorms. Proceed to questions. Never mind. Say goodbye. Oh yeah, these two ladies were in a different game that I was doing an investigation in. I don't want to get too far though, because I'm a little afraid to like spoil some of it for you guys. Yeah, right. I know I'm a next level streamer. I do lurk while I stream. I had opened that window in order to pull up my Twitch stream so that I could just in case, like to check my audio and stuff like that. And then I just didn't and forgot. And then I just went to a stream. Ask about the Orange Farmers. Do you know anything about them? Only that they trade stuff with Betty. She might know more. She's a talker. I overheard that some players address her in a particular way. They lean over and say, show me your wares. I think it's some kind of password. Ask what's going on in town. Sorry, I don't know anything. I'm trying to stay away from the other players right now. Ask about Betty. Can you tell me anything about yourself? Sorry, no. I've just logged into the game. You should ask Betty. Okay, I will talk to Betty. Hey, Betty. Say the secret password. Show me your wares. I have a firearm for 5,000 coins. Interested? I don't have it. Ask what she does in Realium. Why can I buy a gun? Could you tell me something about your life in Realium? Sure, it's not a secret. I work for the Ministry of Internal Affairs. I organize new holidays. Okay. Neighbor's Day. I'm gonna leave. God, I kind of want to get out of here so I can show you what the real world looks like. But I don't really know how to progress this. Oh, I guess I can just... that's what I need to do. I need to make a deduction. Alright. Who's the sheriff? I think the sheriff is the perpetrator. Who is Leanne? Cheater. I think she's the victim. And who is the outlaw? Just pick up your camera and move it towards the window. Yeah, it'll just be a dark window. It's very late here. Well, I mean, it's not very late. It's 8 o'clock. But it gets dark here at 5. Just so you Americans know, it gets dark here at 5. It's crazy. But the weather isn't different. Like, I don't feel like it's colder here. It's just darker sooner. Happy 11/11 on 11. Oh, cool. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to choose victim. I think she's a victim. I'm going to go with that. I'm sticking to it. Oh, yeah, the outlaw is the victim. Guilty. Who is responsible for the Orange Folks issue? I think it's the sheriff. I think that these two are innocent. Yeah, 5, yeah. It gets dark very soon. Yeah, we're in like the northern. We're quite north. I guess it does get dark pretty early in Carbondale, doesn't it? Yeah, I am in Germany. But isn't it? It does get dark pretty early in Carbondale, right? Like quite early. But that's because of all the trees there. I've concluded that the trees make Carbondale darker than it otherwise would be. Whereas in Utah, where I was raised, it doesn't get dark until like 11. Yeah, Germany is definitely further north. It's also like not nearly as hot. It's not like walking outside in Carbondale, Illinois during the summer is like taking a really wet towel and putting it in the dryer for about 25 minutes and then just like draping it over you completely, just like, and then you walk around with that. It's fucking hell. Germany is farther north than any part of the US, excluding Alaska. Yeah. I mean, it starts to get dark here at like 4, and then it is like dark at 5. Like it's night. It's interesting. Anyway. There are 2 other people who could apparently be suspects, but I'm fine with going with the sheriff. Okay, now I can go. I have a lot of things I have to do at sundown. Climb the ladder. The joke being, by the way, about Carbondale was that Toaster Shooter and I went to the same university. I still don't know who he is, but I was in the graduate program. I'm assuming he's in the undergraduate program. And the university is in Carbondale, Illinois. And it is true, it does get dark there quite early. But Carbondale is also what I like to call the Bermuda Triangle of the United States. It's okay, nobody needs to know who you are, that's fine. I call it the Bermuda Triangle of the United States because you can't, once you go in there, you can't get out. And you don't really know what it is before you go in. And then once you're in, there's no escape. It's 2 hours to the nearest city, and the nearest city is St. Louis. St. Louis. Ghost. Self-identify as a pastry. One of the ones with like a package of icing. Yes. Toaster strudels. Toaster strudels. Shit. I said it was a toaster strudel. Welcome, Gamedec. Hi, do I need to perform a ritual or exorcism to make you reveal yourself? Right. Let me exit Guardian Angel mode. Wait, how do I do that? I think it's here. Okay. Oh, it's Kenju. He's from an earlier game that I was in. Doing an investigation. Yes. Yeah, snowing in April aligns with Carbondale, Bermuda Triangle stuff. I mean, it just if you're not there, you don't know what is there, and you can't find it. You can't find what is there, and then once you're there, and you try to leave, you're just driving through endless forests. It feels like you're in a Danielewski novel. It's me, Kenju. We met in A Twisted and Perverted. I was conducting my first case there. Right, we've met. I remember you were chasing some crooks. Yeah, sorry about that. I totally failed to help that guy. Talk about Ken's case. Tell me more about your investigation, Ken. Did you manage to find the cheaters that spoiled your game? Online, yes, but you know, Chief, it's not the same as catching someone in Realium. I tried to use this program, Investigator, but it's not easy, so I followed them around and tried to find out where they live or drink. And so step by step, program by program, deduction by deduction, I've become a Gamedec. Congratulate him on the career change. Wise men say the only constant is change. Good or Bads is a cool game. That was a game that this guy played before. He's wearing the like a kind of a weird Native American stereotype, but I think he was a professional esports player, the guy I'm talking to. And he joined up with me in my last case. Very demanding a game. This is also the person that was trying to hack me, so I backhacked him. I backhacked him good. A Gamedec's profession is less stressful. That's right. I just missed the money. Move on to your case. You said you had some information concerning my case. Yes, I think there's something fishy going on. No shit. The Orange Fork uses a cheat that helps him get loot boxes. Yes, it's some sort of speed boost. Yes, but you know, Chief, that could be any kind of hack. Small time or heavy artillery. The sheriff, that Billy guy, uses a similar cheat to win duels. Ask if he's got proof. Have you got any proof? I overheard him talk about that cheat in a conversation with Ack. I don't have proof, but why would he talk about it for no reason? Sadly, I don't have any substantial evidence. I'd like to get some. I think the sheriff controls the work done by the Orange Folk somehow. No shit. That Ack guy and Mad Dog are involved in it. It's some kind of slavery. I don't think it's... Well, is it... I don't think it's slavery. I mean, well, maybe it is. I mean, there's also the train and the very small airport around 20 minutes. I mean, who is... Are you really going to fly out of Makanda Airport? Is that an airport? Or is that a thing that people say is an airport? You know what I mean? I don't think it's real. I don't think it's a real place. I think it's fake. I think they lied to us. But anyway, I agree with Rinzai. Do we think it's some kind of slavery? Or do we think it's something different? The tiny airport that's 20 minutes away is in fact real. I mean, I know it's real, but I don't think it's real. I wouldn't have taken a plane out of there. Which one? The cancer kids, are they slaves or are they not slaves? That's the question. Rinzai is keeping us on track. Thank you, Rinzai. I know it's real. That would be the natural contrarian inside Rinzai. I mean, I came to the deduction that those two guys are involved in it and that the sheriff is running it because he is Mr. Leibowitz or whatever his name was. Leibniz? But they're cancer kids and they're making I mean, we probably shouldn't refer to. They are children with cancer. They are children with cancer who are doing something that provides for the foundation in order for them to keep them alive, or something, maybe. We don't know. That's the problem, is that we just don't know. So do we agree that it's slavery? It feels like he's provided very little evidence for his fairly absolute claims. They're supporting their benefactors, true, but the benefactors are supporting them. Exactly. Exactly, indeed. That's the problem. So I don't know if it's slavery. I mean, I guess you could also say that the benefactors, like the slave masters and like actual slavery, like real world slavery, 1800s or earlier than that, American slavery, they fed them, so I guess they also were benefiting from their slave masters, kind of, not really, absolutely not, but like, here's the other thing. What is the purpose of slavery if the main purpose is to help yourself stay alive? True. Is work under the threat of dying unethical? Yeah. Yes. Yes. This is fucked up, dude. I think I've been convinced that it's slavery. Mostly from Struder's comment that if the main purpose is to help yourself stay alive. Wait. Rinzai says wait. What's the profit for the hospital? I don't think it's easily classified either, but if I had to err on between two not closing down. Yeah, I mean, she said that they're like running out of men. Like, she was trying to go after the sheriff because she thought he had a ton of money. The hospital exists to help them, but the hospital can't help them if the kids don't mine loot boxes to keep themselves alive. And they're also, let's not forget, by the way, the kids were the ones who contacted me. I'm trying to solve their case. I didn't know they were kids, but I'm trying to solve their case. And the reason why I was called into this to begin with was because the kids said, we keep getting kicked out of the game. We are literally passing out, and we're getting kicked out of the game. Like, we are falling unconscious while we're playing the game, and we're getting kicked out. So that's what the kid said to me. Work to live. Fuck me. If they're kicked out, they can't mine loot boxes to not die. Exactly. That's why they want me to come in and help them figure out why they're getting kicked out. But they're fucking kids with their children with cancer. They don't even realize that they're being used for slave labor. You know what I mean? It's fucked. Yeah, okay, maybe it's not slavery. I mean, it's not purely symbiotic, right? I mean, like, surely this is why we have societies, so that kids with cancer don't have to work so that they don't have cancer. This is kind of why we have, like, society. I don't know, maybe I've been Germaned. Maybe I'm Germaned up now. Where, like, in their world, they don't have that society. True, we do need to consider it from their world perspective. That's a good point. I've never been so, like, torn on this strange decision. Agreeing with this dope who's, like, a rookie detective. Yeah, of course you were. Of course you were waiting for an excuse. I was going to say, I said it already. You do contrarian for the sake of contrarianism. Um, yeah, society isn't built to help people, but like the social contract theory pretty well establishes why we should. You know what I mean? Like the social contract theory is the basis of society, and the social contract theory suggests why it's good to adhere to societal norms in order for society to function. Right? Like there are reasons. Society does happen, but it happens for reasons. Society is a social contract constructed by society to confine society to the models of yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to deny it. You're jumping to conclusions, Ken. Not a good idea in our line of work. Don't make assumptions, even though I made like 5 assumptions. Um, I saw that you closed a deal with Billy and now you're obliged to do the job for him, but maybe it's a good idea to get him in Relium, find out who he really is. Get the sheriff. Fuck me, man. I'm sure it's not the outlaw. Get the sheriff. Yes, we need to get him. Ah, fucking some. Yeah, sorry, there wasn't much of a democracy. I do think that there is something fucked up going on, but I don't know if I'm ready to completely classify it as like full bore slavery. You know what I mean? Shoving the gold star down the throat seems a tad extreme. Yeah, it does seem a little extreme. Oh, you get to decide how to handle the situation once you come to your final verdict too. Neat. Yeah, it's really cool. It's like at least child labor. Get in physical. Get in physical contact with the avatar of the person you're looking for and hold them for a while. I know I've tried. There's a problem. Let him explain. What kind of problem? It's like a thin layer of digital air between your hand and another avatar. Maybe that's why it's easier to cheat with speed boost here. I've searched the code and it seems that barrier caused the birds to vanish. I mean, they're there, but it can't be seen. It's that layer of air. I think there's a safeguard against the app. Whatever it was done upon player request or of their own accord, you just can't touch. You can't just touch anyone here. So you can't run the investigator by just touching someone. I thought it over and I've got an idea. Do tell. Can you hook up the investigator to a bullet and then shoot someone? The bullet would get inside the avatar and stay there long enough. That's an interesting idea. We pretty much agreed that it's far from ideal, but not exploitation for the sake of the powers that be. Yeah. Bless you people, real thinkers. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that there's some nuance to it, but I actually really like this nuance. I think it really adds to the fiction. Genuinely. I think it adds to the narrative a lot. Can you hook up the investigator to... Oh, yeah, I already read that. You're thinking like a game deck, Ken. That's exactly what I was thinking. And sometimes I've had just enough Paulaner beer to really start considering things. You know what I mean? Here, you'll need it. Oh, he gave me his gun. Nice. I took a bullet from the gun cylinder, opened my investigator window, and linked the program to the bullet and my avatar. Well, that's cool. Sounds like some kind of like cybery stuff. Damn, Chief. Watching you work sure is something, even though you like totally solved the case for me. Now you need to challenge the sheriff to a sunset duel and shoot that douche. It's getting dark. We should go. I'll assist you in an invisible protective spirit. You can thank me later. I assume I have no say in this. You'll follow me whether I want it or not. I'm involved as hell in this. I want to know how it ends. Maybe I can learn something. Maybe I can help. Have him stay close. I might need an invisible helping hand. Stay close. Great. Lead the way, Chief. Okay, so the way we leave is through here. Turn it down. I looked at Ken. He nodded. He was ready. Okay. Oh, fuck me. I do appreciate that it has nuance. The situation could have easily been an absurdly dark, edgy scenario that just seeks to baffle the viewers with fucked up ideas, but it gives your brain something to properly chew on as well. This is exactly exactly my charge. I think exactly what my charge is with Vanderjagt in general is that what I have found in most of the game narratives that I've played, not all, but many, probably most, is that they are relatively sophomoric in their considerations, right? Now, there's a really, really annoying term that is used all the time in fiction, and that's the distinction between genre fiction and literary fiction. Genre fiction is science fiction, fantasy, crime, detective, mystery. That's genre fiction. It has a genre, romance, YA, all of these things, right? This is what is considered to be genre fiction. Then there is literary fiction. What is literary fiction? Not those things, I guess. It's not romance. It's not a mystery. It's not science fiction. It's not, right? It's one of the most annoying things I've ever experienced my entire life, because ultimately what it's saying, well, Lord of the Rings is now considered literary fiction. I'm almost done, by the way. Lord of the Rings is considered literary fiction now because enough stodgy, glasses-pushing weirdos decided that it was good enough, right? So all literary fiction is that it's just been decided it's good enough, right? It's a qualitative distinction. People say that if they don't like the writing, then they say that it's bad, or they say it's genre. If they think, thanks for reminding me to push my glasses. If the Kurt Vonnegut, for example, he's a science fiction writer. Basically, everybody would say that he's a science fiction writer, except for the people who like literary fiction. They would say he's a literary fiction writer. Why? I have no idea. Because there's aliens in his story about World War II. And the main character gets abducted by aliens. You know what I mean? It's like very clearly science fiction to me. But they're like, no, because it's better. It's better than science fiction. And it's like, wait, that doesn't even make any sense. You can't make a quantitative judgment or a qualitative judgment on this. It's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. So, it's not about aliens. It's about free will. Yeah, I know, right? Just like all those other stories about aliens weren't about free will. But there is something to be said about it. There is something to be said about the distinction. I just think that what's annoying is that an entire group of writers, like I don't know, Sam Delaney, for example. Sam Delaney gets poo-pooed because he writes science fiction. Meanwhile, the dude's just banging out like incredible book after incredible book after incredible book that are more meaningful than any of the literary novels I've read, right? But he hasn't been anointed as a literary writer. And it's just fucking annoying to me. But anyway, so the thing that I do want to say about this, though, is that there is a little bit of kernel of truth in it. In that a lot of times, people who don't understand how to write good narratives will go into the science fiction, they will go into the fantasy realms, because that's the stuff they like anyway, right? And they will, and I'm not saying that that only happens in genre fiction, by the way. Literary fiction, I think it even happens more because the MFAs are completely filled to the brim with people who are obsessed with literary fiction and they can't write it, but they try anyway. And it's super annoying. And they write bad literary fiction. It's sophomoric. It doesn't make you consider anything. It's not interesting, right? Meanwhile, you have this game, which is first a game. Second, it's a science fiction game. Third, it's way more interesting than most of the things that I have read in literary fiction. Does that make sense? But the charge that I think that I have is to point out why this is good and why other games need to do more stuff like this. I don't think that every single game needs to have a plot as thick as this one, but it's clear to me that the people who are writing these things don't care enough about story. They don't care enough about the fiction. They don't care enough about the narrative, the structure. They don't care enough about that stuff. And so they're writing feels shallow, right? That's why people say, oh, you don't need to pay attention to the story in a game. Imagine if somebody said that about film, where they were like, oh, it's okay. I mean, it's one of those films, you don't need to pay attention to the story. It's like, but it is the story. The film is the story. What do you mean? Right? And to me, like, people say that about games all the time, and it drives me crazy. It's like, well, I want to pay attention to the story. I don't want to play a story game. I want to play a game. And to consider the narrative as this like sub thing, this like thing that is like stapled to the game is just weird. Sorry, I missed a bunch of chat messages because I went on one of my rants. If you can't make a proper objective definition for this category that you believe warrants higher status, then it's not a real category. Agreed. Yeah, man, keep playing Nier. I will definitely do that. I will definitely do that. Sorry, I'm scrolling through. The story is part of why the video game happens. Right. I mean, the story should be the cause of all video games. That doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be text heavy, but I think that any game that has a narrative that is thought out is going to has more of a reason for its existence. Choices in visual novels. What kind of waifu husbando do I want to date? I mean, that's fine. It could be that, but just like figure out why that is revealing. Figure out why that is something that is difficult, right? Figure out why that has stakes and conflict, because that's what narrative is. That's stakes and conflict. It's a character confronted by stakes and conflict, right? There admittedly are games that are like that, where the story is really, really far out of sight. But even in a lot of those cases, there is still a story, unless the game is something like Tetris. I mean, yeah, like, okay, Tetris. Tetris is on the ludological versus narratological scale. Tetris is like a 1, right? But I mean, just imagine if Tetris had a story. It doesn't need to not have a story. It just doesn't have one. I mean, I think that Thomas Was Alone, right? Thomas Was Alone is almost like if Tetris had a story. And it's very interesting and very memorable. The story is the struggle of a square trying to fit into a narrow space. Puyo Puyo Tetris enters the ring. All I'm meaning to say is that, I mean, this was prompted by a comment earlier from Toaster Shooter, but the thing that the point I'm trying to make is that the reason why the narratives are sophomoric is because the people who make them are sophomoric writers. And that's, I think, is a problem. Whereas you see, I mean, you can just feel the narrative in this game. You can feel the strength of it. Just by the way it's paced, by the plot, by the characters. I mean, there is a real, actual writer working on this game. And that's the thing I find so interesting, because all I have done is click dialogue options. Right? Everyone says that the original Doom has no story or any story worth acknowledging. I always think that's nonsense, because it does. It has a premise of a guy Mars shooting demons. That is in and of itself a story. Yeah, it's a great story, right? But that's kind of what I'm saying. That's like, it's almost like the From Software effect, where like you are overcoming the odds, right? In Doom, you were overcoming the horror. Yeah, gameplay can be a story in itself. Exactly, that's what I've been saying for weeks and months. Gameplay is a story. Totally. It's a character. It is a, I mean, Sonic saves Amy from Metal Sonic and defeats Robotnik. No dialogue necessary. Luke Skywalker saves Leia from Darth Vader and defeats the Emperor. No dialogue necessary. It's the same shit. Aaron Signal put my point best. If Call of Duty was about shooting puppies instead of people with guns here, then the story would be completely different. Totally. Yeah, completely. I mean, it would be like a fucking horrible game. um, but that's ultimately the point I'm trying to make, is that because the narratives are considered so who gives a shit in the development process of the game suffers. The game ultimately suffers because of it. Not every single game needs to be a knockout, incredibly detailed, incredibly intricate narrative. But I think every game should at least consider its narrative as important. When it's clear to me that most aren't. Yeah, that's true about movies. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We do see. I mean, we do see more of one story than the other, but that is exactly as you say. It's because the mediums are different, right? We feel Sonic. We feel Sonic go through the trials of the hero, because the levels get fucking harder as you play it. Right? The levels get more difficult, which is just like Luke having more difficult trials on his quest to save Leia. I'm glad everybody agrees with me. But anyway, so unfortunately, I know that we just got this incredible thing, Mr. Gamedec quit. They're hanging Stanley. I gotta go though, because I've already gone like way over my time. So, and I'm gonna get in trouble. So I gotta head out. I gotta stop the stream now. So I appreciate everybody stopping by and chatting with me. There's a lot of room to explore. Yes, absolutely. And I look forward to talking to you all on the Discord. Have a good rest of your day, and good luck in the game making process. Let me know when you guys finish anything, and we can jam them in here. I'm gonna play I'm gonna be playing Rinzai's next game. Well, Rinzai and Mr. C's game probably next week. This ended up taking more time than I thought. So, but my voice is getting shot, so I'm gonna go away now. But yeah, anytime you finish something, let me know. I'll put up another jam eventually, but right now I want to focus on some other stuff, so we'll get there. All right. I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye now. For like 20 seconds. Discord, etc. There was a lot of great discussion. Indeed there was. This is why I love when people all come. I love it when people are here, because we get to talk about awesome shit. Okay, actually really goodbye now.